You ready? All right. We'll call our June Commissioner meeting to order. I ask Commissioner Belcher to give us our invocation, Commissioner Booth to lead us in our pledge.
Bow, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight seeking your guidance and your wisdom in everything that we would do. We would ask that you would place your hand upon us and lead us, guide us, and direct us as we conduct the county's business and do it in a way that's favorable in your sight. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Oh, my Lord. I want to sit here half naked. I apologize.
I know you forgot. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to consent agenda with necessary corrections.
Okay. Does anybody have any corrections?
No.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 6-0. Now I'll go ahead and say this. Commissioner Deathridge will be here tonight. He is simply running late. So we know that he will be here. Yes, he did. All right, public comments. I think.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order.
Okay.
Approve agenda items. I think we.
Okay.
Yeah. I have two items that I would like to move up on the agenda. They're both in the informational packet that's at the end of the end of our book. The market-based incentives from Soil Conservation Service, and I would like to move that up to wherever you want to consider it. It's probably best considered as a part of the budget, but we can consider it as a separate item if you want to. And then we have a resolution in there, which is number J, which has to do with the immigration. There's a resolution from another county, and I'd like to move that up for consideration by the board.
Okay. What we will do is, normally at our 6:30 break, we will not have that today, so we will try to fill in that blank up until our public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, you also received on Friday, and I've just given you a copy of a request from the town of Belhaven regarding the pyrotechnical permit. If you're going to need to take action on that tonight, you'll need to add that to your consent agenda or to the regular agenda.
Okay. All right. We'll all put it in the same slot. Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're back to the public comments. We have Nicholas Baker.
Mr. Chairman, Nicholas Baker got sick today. He's unable to be here, and he's very, very disappointed. He would still like to come before the board and bring his chicken and his rooster and give his report to the board. So if the board will indulge him, could we set aside a time for him to come another day?
Okay. That is fine. All right. Mr. Robert Womble.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
I did bring some one handout with me. Our case disposition data gives out too much information, client information, for me to just hand out a printout. So I had to do something down and dirty for you guys, but let me hand that to you.
Yeah, we'll just pass them down.
Do we have enough to use more?
You need another one? Take Stan. He's not here.
Okay.
I think I made about 15 copies. I hope that was enough. I'm going to bounce around a little bit off of this piece of paper. Let's start at the bottom. I just wanted to point out to you that the Beaufort County jail capacity has dropped by 30 since the day we began our endeavor in February. And very excited about that number, of course. We pride ourselves on being able to dispose of cases in an efficient manner as quickly as possible, but also certainly taking into the rights of the individual, as we are a client-based organization, and we do try to take care of our clients in the most efficient, but also looking out for their constitutional rights.
You say the capacity, you mean the number of inmates has dropped, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Capacity of the jail's the same.
I'm sorry, yes, the capacity obviously is 85. You were at right about 98 on February 1, 2013, and as of last Thursday, the number was 68. The residents there at the county jail was 68. So from February 1, we had knocked it down 30, which is roughly 30%. I'll also tell you, an interesting number on our current pending cases is the Beaufort County number, which we currently have 656 pending cases in Beaufort County. And I went in and dug on that number just a little bit this afternoon as well, just to let you know how that breaks down. There's 366 pending misdemeanors in our office, and this is over the last 3 months as we've been taking cases, mind you. 366 pending misdemeanors, and then there are 615 pending felonies. And I further broke the felonies down into low-level and high-level felonies. We call low-level felonies anything from E to I. Felonies are categorized in the state of North Carolina from A to I. A being first-degree murder, I being low-level drug possession. Low-level felonies in Beaufort County are numbering at 530, and high-level we currently have 85 high-level felonies. High-level felonies are anything D, A to D, and the reason we call those high-level because on our sentencing structure chart, regardless of your prior record level, you will go to prison for anything from A to D. There is no community punishment. There is no intermediate punishment. The judge's hands are tied from anything from A to D, and it calls for an active sentence. So we call those high-level felonies, and we currently have 85 of those pending in our office. An interesting number, and why I brought that out was because of the total pending cases that our office has accepted in the 2nd District, which obviously includes the other 4 counties, is 1,354 cases. Beaufort County being, we're holding 656 from Beaufort County, which is roughly 50%, and I point that out because you gentlemen so astutely agreed to fund our office at roughly 50%, which is roughly where the numbers are breaking down. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that it was falling out at roughly 50%, and it had nothing to do with caseloads, but we based that off of population, as I'm sure all you guys remember. And then there were just some other things that I wanted to point out. At the very top, you'll see a list of names, and those names are the lawyers who are handling cases in the 2nd District, not just in Beaufort County, but all in the 2nd District. Mr. Calvin King, who handles basically high-level felony cases, and he has 144 pending. And then you'll see Norma Lawton, who brought some cases with her at 359. That's a pretty high number for one person to be handling at any one time, and we're doing what we can to knock that down for her. Laura Gibson is a new attorney that came to our office from Pitt County. And then Michael Cleabone, we hired him from Duke Law School, basically right out of law school. Tommy Roughton handles cases not in Beaufort County, but in Terrell and Washington County, and that's where his 140 cases come from. Natalie Evans is a young lawyer from the beach who also handles cases only in Terrell County to reach her 28. Now, we have farmed out 356 cases as of February 1. And the reason we farm out cases would be twofold. Obviously, if our office had a conflict with a case, meaning that there were multiple defendants in one particular file, we would obviously only be able to represent one of those multiple defendants, as we would have a conflict of interest representing both. And then any time a defendant who presently has a case pending with another lawyer were to get a new pending charge, we farm that case to that particular attorney to make sure for judicial economy that one lawyer handles all that person's cases. So we farmed out 356 cases at this time.
Question, Mr. Chairman. All these attorneys you have listed here, and you got 6 attorneys listed here. Are they all full-time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. We have, since February 1, we've tried 3 jury cases. 2 of those were high-level felony cases, one in Martin County, one here in Beaufort County, and then there was a low-level felony case also tried here in Beaufort County.
Now, these numbers, you're speaking of the judicial district. You're not just talking about cases that originated inside of Beaufort County.
I can break those down. I've been talking about both, and I know I've been bouncing around.
Yeah, that's why I
Yes,
was
sir.
wondering. I thought
Yes, sir.
that, yeah.
656 is the total pending cases for Beaufort County in our office presently.
Cases in from Beaufort County.
That's correct. And we have taken in 1,354 cases throughout the district. That would be our district-wide number, and we've taken in roughly 50% here in Beaufort County of our district-wide
That's
number.
district-wide.
Yes, sir.
So you're taking in about a little over 200 cases a month.
Yes, sir. Well, actually, more like 400. That's how well, I will tell you this, Mr. Richardson. Mrs. Norma Loughton brought probably 200 cases. Roughly the number was 185 with her when she came over.
She came from where?
She was in private practice here in Beaufort County. She was with the private bar, and I hired her because her primary business was court-appointed work, criminal defense work, and I hired her to continue in that capacity with our office.
So she brought 185 cases in with her.
That is
What's
correct.
the aging on these cases?
That is a good question. I know that we have. Well, let me just tell you about my cases. Obviously, the age of our cases, we're only taking new cases except for what the 200 that Norma brought. So anything of the 656 that are pending in Beaufort County, we've picked up since February 1. So they've got a 3-month age on them. Now, in the jail, I checked on the jail capacity, and there were 5 defendants in the jail who had been there roughly over a little over a 12-month period, and I believe 4 were charged with first-degree murder.
You've got those cases?
No, sir. No, sir. I do not have any first-degree murder cases in Beaufort County as of yet. If one gets charged, it will come through our office, primarily from the Capitol Defender's Office in Raleigh to my office. But yes, sir, if there is one pending from now, it will come through my office.
So you were saying when I interrupted you,
I'm sorry.
that there was 4 or 5 cases that were in the Beaufort County Jail
5, I believe, that have been there for over a year.
that are your cases.
No, sir.
They're not your cases.
They are not my
Okay.
cases. Yes, sir.
All
Yes, sir.
right. Okay.
Those first-degree murder or second-degree murder? Or do you not even know yet what they are?
The 5 that I know that 4 were first-degree murder cases, or some designation. We don't. Generally, the district attorney's office will indict with an open-ended murder indictment, which encompasses all charges of murder. I call them first-degree murder cases.
Who's in charge of those 5 cases?
I do not know.
I'll go through that. I think I've got it on the jail report that I'm going to go through later, and I'm going to name the lawyers.
Yeah. If they are charged with first degree and they're capital eligible, meaning they're over the age of 18 and meet the IQ and are not incapacitated in some form or fashion, those defendants receive an attorney through the Capitol Defender's Office in Raleigh. That's Mr. Bob Hurley. Now, myself and Mr. Calvin King, at the top of your list there, are the only 2 attorneys in my office who are on the capital attorney list.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Due to the reduction in the number of inmates at the jail from 85 to 68, based on that, you've gone down from 98. Do you perceive the capacity of our jail presently as adequate, inadequate, or in excess?
I believe it to be inadequate.
Why?
I think that for the population size of Beaufort County, your jail capacity is 85. I think you'll see some of the initial drop that we've experienced simply because you've got additional lawyers to handle cases, and I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think that you'll see a 30% drop, a continual 30% drop. I think that initial 30% drop was simply because of the influx of new lawyers, more lawyers into the system. Now, I would like to say that our lawyers work very efficiently. However, I don't think that that's going to be a sustainable number. I suspect that based off of Beaufort County's population, that number will creep as the number of cases that are charged will go up roughly 4 to 8% a year. And I don't see 85 as a sustainable capacity number for Beaufort County. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
Not on that part. He's got dispositional data, though.
That is the
You
disposition.
did the dispositional data?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. There are questions.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The dispositional data is listed in the middle. You'll see that Mr. Calvin King disposed of 8 cases in the last 3 months. He's withdrawn from 4. When I say withdrawn from 4, that means he's got a conflict. Norma Loughton has disposed of 62. And the reason Mr. King's numbers will look at 8 is because he is simply working in Superior Court. He's not working in District Court, which obviously meets more often, and you can dispose of cases in a 60 to 90-day window, whereas in Superior Court, you're looking more like 8 to 10 to 12-month window. Laura Gibson has disposed of 13 cases. She has been working with our office roughly a month and a half. Michael Clebone, as I told you, was a new lawyer we hired out of Duke Law School. He's disposed of 47 cases, and he's working primarily in district court.
Why does it take so much longer in Superior Court?
I could give you the easy answer to that, Mr. Richardson, is the number of times we hold court. But that's being disingenuous with you. Also, the problem is the discovery rights that kick in with any indictment. The defendant has different discovery rights on a felony than he does on a misdemeanor. And a lawyer worth his salt will attempt to investigate the factual background that is provided by the district attorney's office. And it takes time for them to generate it to us. And also, in a felony case, a lot of times a felony will begin its existence with a warrant from the magistrate, but as you know, all cases in Superior Court must go before the grand jury. So you've got to wait for a grand jury indictment. That'll add 60, 90 days to it. Any drug case, guys, is going to take over 12 months simply because the SBI lab is backed up. They're running it.
Can you use other labs?
I believe they can. I haven't seen anybody do that, but I think you can.
Why don't they use other labs?
I think it's the SBI lab has its standards that are generally accepted in the field. They are forensically trained, and they're
They go by the international standards for criminal labs. That's what the statute requires.
Correct.
But all of the other labs also go by those same standards. So it just looks to me like it's false economy for us to keep somebody in prison for an extra 300 days at $50 a day, $15,000, when I can go to a private lab and from anywhere to $2,000 to $10,000 you can get what you need. So, my question is, why aren't we doing that? And I haven't had a chance to look and see as to whether or not you could draw on the budget for the state lab if they're not doing the job.
I do not know the answer to that either, sir. I don't.
There's a way out of this, and we need to. I'm going to keep pecking at this because it's ridiculous to sit here and let the state lab hold up all of these trials in the state of North Carolina at the expense of these counties. if the system is slow enough as it is, how often does Superior Court meet?
Once a month.
See, that's, we need to take a look at that. Everybody says it's up to the judges, but the public's paying the bill. So the way I look at it is the public's got to say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I met with the SBI ombudsman approximately 30 days ago. I know it was about a month ago. Her name escapes me at this point. We talked about the lab issue, and they're obviously shorthanded, and she told me even if they were not shorthanded, the amount of time it would take for the new lab analysts to come on board to get up to speed, you're still 2 years out. And at every lab analyst that becomes state certified, which is what the SBI what the SBI calls for, as soon as they become certified, they become marketable in the private sector, and they immediately move out into the private sector to make more money.
Yeah, they got to work with the commercial labs. See, and that's proof that public companies are providing these services. So this business that we got to wait on the state lab is a bunch of bull. The county, we need to take a look at how we can save money, and we won't do this. This is not a budget item, but we need, as soon as this is over with, we need to take a look at how we can save money by taking some of the money that we're spending in the jail and spend it on laboratory work so we can get these cases moved out. And if that starts piling up on Superior Court judges, then we need to take a look at how we can unpile these Superior Court judges.
Provided that, and I'm not an authority on this, provided that meets statute. I'm with you, Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I've read the statute. You can go to a commercial lab according to the statute. And it gives the standards. As long as the legislature passed a law that gives the standards. So as long as you're using that particular lab, and these guys tell me, some of them I've talked to, that they can, what's now a 12-month case suddenly becomes a 2-month case.
Well, I was standing in Superior Court this morning, and I can tell you that my office, and this was in Pasquotank County, my office continued probably half the cases that were on the calendar because we did not have a lab back. This was in Superior Court today in Pasquotank.
Yeah, thank you. That's interesting information.
Okay, anything further?
Just one question. Out of this 132 cases that was disposed of, how many of those cases were plea-bargained out and back on the streets?
I don't have that number in front of me. I will tell you that there's only been 3 jury trials.
There was 3 jury trials?
3 jury trials done by my office in the last 3 months. There's been, I did look at last year's numbers for the entire 2nd District, and there were 54 jury trials in this district last year, which, based off the population, would put it in at least in the top, probably in the top 5% for the number of jury trials had in the state, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask one more thing. Think about how you can do us a report, because we're going to want a regular report that will do what you need done and will do what we need done, that could be more or less a standard form of some type that would give us the information that we need.
I'll try to figure that out. Obviously, what I can just hit a button gives you more information than I can ethically give you.
I understand.
Yeah, based off client information.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Timmy, committees.
They didn't pass the budget today, Hood.
Not yet.
All right.
Thank you, Chairman Langley and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to appear tonight speaking for the Mid-East Commission. As you know, the Mid-East Commission has been in Washington for over 40 years, and during those 40 years, we have had offices at various locations throughout the town, and in the last 8 or 10 years, we've been located on John Small Avenue across from the food line. Our lease there has run out, and we as a group have decided that we need a permanent location that belongs to us rather than to continue to pay rent as we have in the past. There was a strong move to move the Mid-East Commission offices out of Beaufort County. The Executive Committee resisted that and we have looked at a number of sites in Beaufort County as possible sites for construction of an office. We have worked with the county manager and our executive director have had a number of meetings, and we have looked at the old nursing home site. And we have a preliminary layout. We have done an assessment on the demolition of the building for the removal of asbestos and so forth within that building. And we're at a point now that we need to have a decision from the commissioners as to whether we can move forward by you're either donating that property to us or allowing us to have it on a very long-term lease. And with those comments, I'm going to let Mr. Baines come forward, and he's got some general comments, and he and the county manager have many more details than I have. But at the conclusion of his remarks, between the two of us, hopefully we can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you. Before the meeting, I actually passed out a corrected sheet of information about the office partnership that was placed at your table today. We made a mistake on the package that was sent out because of everything we've done trying to figure out a best way to move this forward. But just a little bit of background about the Mideast Commission and our partnership with Beaufort County. As Mr. Mercer said, again, we've been in Beaufort County basically since the inception in the late 60s as the home office for this multi-county region. And at the present time, we currently have 25 employees on staff at the Mideast Commission. Our budget for next fiscal year has been approved, and it's going to be in excess of $7 million. And of that $7 million, the salaries that will be paid for our staff is $1,342,000. And you can see there that with the information that I've given you, we actually are expecting to grow next fiscal year in our programs. At the time we put this together, we thought it might be up to as many as 5, and that still could be possible, but we're thinking it's going to be more like 3 or 4 additional staff members, maybe 5, that would take us up to a possible total of 30 employees here with the Mideast Commission. At the present time, 12 or almost half of our employees actually live and reside in Beaufort County. That kind of gives you a snapshot of where we are with our staff. But the other 2 pieces that are very important to us in our partnership with Beaufort County is the fact of the partnership we have with grant writing, grant administration, and planning services that are provided to the county. So I gave you a couple of bullet points there, and I just went back a few years. I've got a report that goes back at least 16 years that shows all of the different grants and things that we've done. But over the last 4 years, since 2009, Mideast Commission has written and administered grants in the amount of $5,158,000 for Beaufort County and the municipalities within the county, because we associate it all with the county. And the local match for that was less than 50%, or $4,144,000. And if you take a look at that number of match, the majority of that funds was provided for the Allied Health Building at Beaufort County Community College. So if you really look at the numbers, if you exclude the Allied Health Building, that little over $2.5 million was provided for basically $20,000 of local funds. So we try to do our best to get funding for different projects throughout the county as costly, as least costly as we can. And then, of course, the other role that we provide is that we actually have all staff that is dedicated to serving and performing as the role of the county planning staff by administering subdivision regulations, stormwater ordinance, mobile home park ordinance, travel trailer ordinance, billboard ordinance, and other related planning services and guidance, including E911 updates and related troubleshooting and mapping. So you can see that we have a great partnership to work together. And we feel like this location that we've been talking about tonight, the Old County Nursing Home, is the greatest location for us based on what we've been able to identify and be able to stay within Beaufort County. And as Mr. Mercer said, I know me being new, I did have to deal with the proposal that we get moved out of the county, and we fought that very hard so that we can stay in Beaufort County because of our partnership and because of the amount of work that we do in partnership with Beaufort County. You can see there, again, our building that we're looking at is going to be anywhere from 15 to 20,000 square feet. We are currently working on a schematic drawing of a potential floor plan, but the reason why that number fluctuates so much is because we're also talking with the state about potentially bringing in some of their offices into our location so that we would have co-located services in one location. Where right now, specifically with workforce development, we're fragmented because we have a location in our office in John Small Avenue, and then there's an office downtown with the employment, what used to be the Employment Security Commission. So there is some fragmented services going on there, and we're in conversations with them about potentially them co-locating in our JobLink one-stop center so that we could provide the best services for the clients and the citizens of Beaufort County seeking additional work, help, education, training, that kinds of things. The other thing, of course, we do have a great partnership with our JobLink Center that we actually provide GED classes through the community college. They're in our office every day of the week providing GED training to individuals trying to obtain their GED and move forward with other educational opportunities. We also provide some small office space to various nonprofits throughout the region. We provide sublease space to literacy volunteers of Beaufort County, SCORE, the Senior Corps of Retired Executives that helps with business development. We have office space leased to the United Way of Beaufort County. We have office space that's leased to National Council on Aging that deals with Title V older workers. We have office space that's leased to Washington Housing Nonprofit Incorporated. So, you can see that we have a wide variety of services that are provided there, and the reason why we have, and we feel like the old county nursing home would be a great site for us is because of the various clientele that comes in and out of our doors on a daily basis. Be right there centrally located to all of the health services, easily access to shopping for Food Line, and we feel like this would be the best place for it. So with that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any, or to talk further about it. I know we have worked with a small subset of the board to kind of discuss this issue, and a small subset of our board also has looked at this and trying to figure out the best way and the best logistical way to move this forward. So be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Mr. Chairman, what is the Employment Security Commission presently known as?
The Division of Workforce Solutions.
And that's state, right?
That's state. Mm-hmm.
JobLink is federal? Or,
well,
why do both exist? That's just...
The JobLink was originally set up through the Workforce Development Board, through Region Q. The Employment Security Commission, as we all commonly refer to it, was originally set up to handle mainly unemployment insurance issues, and through the merger at the Department of Commerce, that's kind of been separated out. The state also, at one point, I don't know all of the history of what happened in Beaufort County, why we had two different sites, but that's just the way we've landed for the last 10 years. Actually, more than that, the JobLink system has been in place for at least 15 years now. So we're trying to co-locate them.
Any further questions? Mr. Manager?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to report to the board and remind you that we did have a committee that you appointed. I believe Commissioners Richardson, Booth, and Belcher, and I met with the representatives from the Mideast, and I think this was the committee of commissioners felt positive about this type of relationship moving forward, but we did need the full board's approval to proceed.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, basically what we're talking about is They think they're going to be able to build on what's essentially the same footprint that's there, and it looks like they will be able to. So from the standpoint of regulations are at a minimum, and what we discussed, and you guys jump in if I get this wrong, what we discussed was that we would deed the site in order to keep them here as an economic development issue and group in Beaufort County. We would deed them the site. They would do the demolition of the site and build their building back on the site. And all that we would want out of this long-term is if they ever sold the building or disposed of the building, is that we get some kind of a first option, which we could either take or not take or whatever. So that's in conformity, I believe, with the conditions that are on that site, which was originally deeded to the county for the use and good of the public.
Can I ask a question? Does that remainder interest that's in there still intact, stay intact?
What do you mean?
The remainder interest that it cannot be, it goes back to some some group.
Oh, yeah, that's still there. But
So if it's done with these guys, providing they're nonprofit, as government, for the good of the people, that kind of thing, and then we get our interest back, some kind of interest, because do we still have to cover that remainder interest?
No, what we're getting out of it is that we're not going to have to tear down and demolish the old rest home that's there. They're going to do this as part of this particular deal. We're only going to deed them, once their site plan is complete, we're only going to deed them what they have to stay in conformity with erosion, sedimentation, and stormwater rules.
Okay.
So the fact that the site is almost all impervious right now, we're going to be deeding them a pretty small plot out of that. They will use the entrance that's there now, the existing entrance onto Highland Drive. There won't be any curb cuts or anything into the street that goes in Smallwood.
So we'll still be in compliance with that remainder interest.
We'll still be in compliance. That's, the attorney would give us that opinion. But my understanding is that we would be.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about, Billy.
I'm saying, what you have access through Reed Drive or...
No, I'm talking about when we got the property, 150, 200 years ago?
You had more restrictions.
Yeah.
Poor folks and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And they have, one title company has issued title policy since if you remember, that we had a deed from the so-called Beaufort County. I'm trying to think what the nomenclature was on what's the name.
Wardens of the poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Wardens of the poor, yeah.
And we did have a deed from that conveyed it to Beaufort County while it was politically incorporated. And that's been done. And then it's a question of the title certification. It'll be up to a title insurance company, whether they will insure that title. I think they probably will.
Okay.
30 years.
Thanks for answering. Thank you for answering.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
who's going to own the building?
That would be dependent on who you actually title the property to. You know, we've got the Mideast Commission, but we also have the Mideast Development Corporation, which is our 501c3 nonprofit. That is who we intend to hopefully own the property because they already have a history of financing with USDA, and there's assets there for the Mideast Development Corporation that USDA could be, they would look at their balance sheet and find that more favorable than they would to look at the Mideast Commission, because we don't own any real property as the Mideast Commission.
Commissioner Clement, it would be my preference that the Development Corporation own it, since they already own property and are familiar with the ins and outs.
This is the preferred position of the Mideast Commission.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it was also doing the same terms as we've set forth.
Right.
It would be if we'd still have the right to first refuse or something like that.
Yes.
So it wouldn't matter who owned it. Is that right?
Yes.
Anything further?
Yes, is there any further barriers in relation to going ahead with this project?
At this point in time, we're to the point that we need a decision from the commission to tell us whether we need to proceed to look at this site for further development of the site plan and so forth. We've gone about as far as we can go at this point in time without a commitment from you as a board to allow us to utilize that property, either by giving it directly to us or, if necessary, a long-term lease. We would prefer to have the title in our name, and that way we can proceed with the plans to develop, and if we can get the cooperation from the commissioners and you provide the site, we think that we can be in construction phase by the end of the year.
I make a motion that we proceed with deeding the property with the rescissionary rights to whatever entity they want deeded to.
Second.
And that we allow them to proceed, and that we proceed to do this, and that we empower our county attorney to take whatever steps he needs, since this is public property, so that we can proceed to do that.
And again, I second.
What's the specific name of the entity it's going to be deeded to?
Mid-East Development Corporation.
Mid-East Development Corporation.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eddie Staley.
Good evening. I believe it was about a month and a half ago I had the pleasure to meet with each one of you and discuss some of your data issues and addressing issues that were apparent here in the county. And we were tasked with moving forward to review those issues and come back with recommendations. And I believe each of you have a digital copy of this report that's been provided to you on your devices. And I'm sure each one of you have already had a chance to review that, so I will not go through it in great detail, because it is a very detailed report, step by step, of how an address is assigned and how the data is prepared to support the daily county services. But I do want to hit a couple of high points that were really fleshed out in the executive summary, and then some of the recommendations as well. As one can expect, addressing is a mission-critical activity with the county. A lot of the departments in the county depend on an accurate address, emergency services being one of those main departments that ultimately depend on it. Based on the data as it stands right now, there's really only one viable way to repair that data set, and that's really to go out and do a field verification on each one of the addresses in the county. The other thing that needs to happen to prevent disruption with citizenry by having to do a readdressing is to basically come in and address the center line ranges, so that in the future, when you're assigning new addresses, it will correlate with actually what's going on in the field. Right now, the ranges on those center lines do not match or are not in harmony with what's in the field. So you actually have two issues going on that need to be addressed. Another issue that's kind of become apparent is the software that is being used to manage that system. There is a legacy piece that is on one computer and another piece of software that is on a second computer. So this individual actually has two computers at her desk and does part of the task on one and part of the task on another. We would recommend that basically that software be decommissioned and that you would look at a new software platform that can do it all on one computer, and also would cut back on the need for basically assign an address today and not being able to provide that address to anybody else for about a day to 2 days afterward. You would be able to do it immediately. And so that's a big part of what we found as part of this process. The overall addressing process itself, the actual methodology that you use, is pretty good. The biggest thing that's happening right now is the actual structure point in the data is being located at the road, not where the structure is. And that can be a real big problem down the road if you have long driveways, long access points back into a structure. Having that dot exactly where it needs to be representative of the ground is pretty important. From a recommendation standpoint, again, we need to basically field verify all those addresses. The other thing that's pretty critical is that your CAD software, your computer-aided dispatch software, so when you call 911, this is how they enter the call, and basically dispatch emergency services. Right now, the GIS or the piece that you have there is not interacting with Spillman, which is your CAD software, and that's a pretty major issue that needs to be addressed. So based on that, we would actually recommend that you move away from the existing GIS more to an ESRI-based platform, which is the state standard. Most of the, 100 counties in the state, about 98 of them use that as their platform. There's also some cleaning that needs to take place. Again, in the report itself, we put some specific examples, some screenshots in there if you care to look over those. But there's some things that need to be done to clean up the topology of their data sets as well to make them a viable data set. Other than that, without getting in great detail, those are the highlights of what we found. Again, all the details contained in the report, and at this point, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
What is it you need from us now?
Well, I think we've placed the recommendations forward to you, and I guess it would be up to the county staff whether or not they would want to proceed with rectifying the data errors that we have found.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we have in the budget document, you all ask us to take a shot at what that estimate would be. We budgeted an amount in there. We reviewed it, as you recall, I think the first budget work session. Mr. Staley has presented, I think, if we want to look on page 179 of your agenda book, his schedule and cost opinion. We shot pretty close to number one, which was our estimate at that time. Mr. Staley had given us some feedback in repairing the address database. What we didn't take into consideration is some other recommendations that he followed up with. So I feel comfortable about us handling the majority of this contract within the current budget. Part of his recommendations can be paid out of 911 restricted funding. So what I would suggest we do is we table this at the present time until your budget discussions are over. Once you've adopted the budget, which may be tonight or maybe at a future meeting, then we may have the discussion about the contract and allowing us to pursue. Because if you adopt the budget, with the changes that have made so far, you all have not amended that. So currently, in your discussion so far, you haven't taken that out of the recommended budget. If you all do adopt a budget that includes it, then we can talk a little bit more of how we may make up the additional recommendations that Mr. Staley has.
Okay. Are there any other questions aside from this?
Mr. Chairman, I forget, how much did we budget?
We put $132,000 on that. Yes, sir.
We need about 170, but I don't see a problem doing it the way Jim's talking about. I mean, going to this new tax system, right now is the time to fix all of it and get it over with.
That's good.
The only thing that I want to say is we need to do this by ordinance. Good buddy doing this is what's got us where we are, and every good buddy had his own set of rules. If we do it by ordinance, good buddy's got to follow the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, under recommendation number 3, does that include the cost of that ESRI software and that $15,000, or is that in addition? I'm confused. I'm a little confused on how much the software, that ESRI software, sounds like it's really needed. But is that a part of that cost option, $15,000?
It is.
Okay.
But that is a cost opinion, and that is based on a set of circumstances. Again, looking at going with one licensee to that as an editor for one department, and then also, too, you would have some lesser seats that would be required in a few other areas. The other thing as well, you have some pretty good leverage with ESRI because you're switching. If you were to switch from your existing GIS software, there's some rebates and all the things that they would give you toward that software just to basically get you on as a new customer. So I think that's a pretty fair number that you could expect.
Commissioner Booth.
I was just wondering, when we go through the new addressing system, would that just be for county, or would municipalities have to follow the instructions of?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's something that we debated quite a bit. Obviously,
Because the reason I ask, if we all got the same 911 system, then there's a possibility that there could be a same street in Chakawinity. That's in Fairhaven.
right. So for the piece that we have in there now, that is basically repairing every address in the entire county, regardless whether it's in a municipal or whether it's in a county jurisdiction. Now, what leverage or what coordination you would have going back with other communities? I know there are some communities that the county actually does the addressing for those communities. But I would definitely encourage, we would need to have that dialogue with, I guess, particularly the city of Washington, to make sure that we're staying in relations. That's correct. But I think, I want to say Belhaven maybe is the other that does its own addressing. I believe that's correct. And maybe
Belhaven's been addressed 3 times that I know of in the last 4 years.
So having some standards and having some ordinances in place, which we address in this document as well, is pretty important.
Commissioner Dale. Yeah, just one quick question. Billy, if we do this by ordinance, won't cities have to follow through because
If you adopted ordinance?
since county supersedes all city ordinances?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
That's the reason I asked.
All right. But they'd be well advised to follow. We have an ordinance.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Particularly dealing with emergency services.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, there's another opportunity for us to lower the cost of this contract as well, and that is, Mr. Staley and I discussed, part of the activities are actually visiting each address in the county, and with their unfamiliarity with the county, he would have to hire a staff to drive the roads with the GIS specialist, and there's an opportunity that we could maybe take a county employee who's on workers' comp or we're trying to find light duty for, that we could allow us to actually, who knows the roads, and save some money. or a part-time retired individual in the county.
As long as you can come in at 1 before you go.
I have one question. I just don't understand how you do this. I give you an example. Out there on a farm in rural Beaufort County.
Sure.
And you got a house here that is a quarter or half a mile from another house right on the road, and the land in between belongs to the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the farmer's daughter gets married, and he deeds her a piece of property to build a house on.
Correct.
How do you take care of that after this is all said and done?
Okay, so the shortened version of it, with typical 911 addressing, basically an address is assigned every 5.28 feet, which is a derivative of 5,280 feet per mile. And that basically becomes your addressing schema. Any new roads that are built, that is the mathematical formula that you should follow, and quite honestly is the mathematical formula you should have been following for quite some time. In cases where roads are existing, basically we can go out and do the field verification. So I'm actually going to say this house is right here, and I put it on the map, and it's going to be on top of the orthophoto, and we're going to capture the address, make sure that the address is properly posted, and etc. There will be some type of ratio of addressing. It might be address every 3.5 feet or an address every 12.2 feet. On occasion, there will be the house that is just the oddball. That's a 701 stuck in between a 400 and a 300 address. And that's where you're going to have to make some decisions about how do you, excuse the pun, address those situations. Do you go to the person and ask them to change their address? Do you let it be? Because quite honestly, if we go to a point-based system that is accurate, then with 911, when that call comes in, it's still going to take them to that dot and say, this is where you need to respond to. So it wouldn't be as big of an issue right now if you were to do that. That dot may show up a half a mile down the road, and that's where the real problem comes in from emergency services. One of the things that was brought out in the document is if that property ever changed ownership, that it would be required to be readdressed at that point in time, and that would be a clean break, because obviously there's hardship on the homeowner if you have to change address.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions?
If not, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby Parker?
Now.
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Parker's coming up, so that I have one item that is best handled, I think, while he's here, having to do with the collection of personal property taxes. If we could, I'd like to move that to him when he finishes so that we can do it while he's here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You got a copy of the collections for the month. Mr. Clem asked a couple of times for what it was close to this time. I got the June 1st, we're at 95.10 now. June 1st of 2011, we were 95.46, so we're right on where we've been being for the last couple of years. That's your, any questions on this collection rates?
Okay.
The next item, we had a request for an appraisal. Someone came over and had a value on at the Board of Equalization. I got that. And this appraisal was done as of January 1, 2010. And I just gave you, I didn't give you the whole appraisal I have if anyone would like to read it. We come up with $455,000 on this. This is the Covage Family, LLC. This was done by a company out in Kinston.
Let's see, Mr. Parker, I believe there's a letter in here where the attorney commissioned that appraisal in April of this year.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, my question is, if you're doing appraisals, and we can only honor an appraisal in this particular case that was done before December the 31st of 2010, and if the appraiser doesn't do that... 2009, okay. And if the appraiser doesn't do the appraisal, if you will, in the heat of the battle, while considering everything that's going on at that moment in time, how can we honor an appraisal that says, it's my opinion, that the value of this property on a date 3 years prior to this was such and such of an amount of money?
He would have to go back and get comps back as 2009 or back a little further maybe.
Yeah,
up
but
2010.
One of the things that you consider in these things, as I said, is the heat of the battle. What's going on in the market, what he sees going on, that has an influence on an appraisal. So my question, we have not been honoring any appraisers and appraisals that were not actually done prior to the date of December 31st, 2009, if that's the date. So why are we considering this appraisal?
Well, he states that this is as of January 1st of 2010. This is what he has, the appraiser. We had a case in Raleigh not long ago. The guy did one appraisal as of when we were in Raleigh, so that was in 2012. The guy did it over again and went back and found comps for 2010 and before, January 2010. The Property Tax Commission accepted that.
Well,
now, whether they, and all I have to go by is the guy said, the appraiser said he went back and this is as of January 1, 2010.
Well, what we've got is only a few pages. We must not have the entire
I have the whole
appraisal.
thing if anybody would like to look at it. I didn't make copies for every.
Are the comparables in there?
Yes.
Are they real?
I just have a problem with doing this because the Board of Adjustment has not accepted an after-the-fact appraisal that I know of.
No, we haven't.
And it's not fair for us to take an after-the-fact appraisal for this and tell everybody else that we can't accept those appraisals that were done after the date.
You remember that night,
I think we might have.
doing this that night? That
Yeah.
We were pretty much assured, thought that they were headed for the property tax commission in Raleigh anyway. That-
Well-
But you didn't have this, and I just wanted to bring this
Yeah.
up to your attention.
They didn't spend much time with us. They were in and out because I just assumed they were headed up to Raleigh.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I'd forgotten about
I
that,
thought
but
we
you're
were-
right.
We were an interim step. They were just going through the process.
Yeah, I mean,
We can just abide by our original thing and let them take it to their,
Well, take it to Raleigh.
I don't have no problem with that. That's,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether they went to Raleigh or not. You know,
They can't go till we do
Until we
this.
we do
reject
this.
yeah, we can do
Okay.
it now.
Well, don't you remember Don Parrott, the CPA from Greenville, represented them?
Yeah, yeah,
Do you remember? Or is it coming back to you now?
yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, and he had somebody with him, and I just got the feeling that we were just in an interim step to them going to Raleigh and getting this thing.
Well, I thumbed through the file over in the courthouse today, which is quite extensive on the foreclosure file, and it is a nitty little case, and it is the kind of thing that the Property Tax Commission needs to take care of, because there was a representation that there wasn't a right-of-way to this property, that there was no access. However, the people that own it is another big timber company. So my feeling is they were going to do a trade with Weyerhaeuser to get access to it if they needed to. So you've got an after-the-fact deal here on a foreclosure that was foreclosed in 2010, not 2009, and they want to go back and value it to 2009. I don't think we should be doing that. Let them go to the thing, because we haven't done this for anybody else.
Right. I was going to say one thing. If I remember correctly on this one, there was a deal where they sold the property for a fairly substantial amount of money.
I think they, Cubbage family held a deed of trust, and they couldn't pay it, and to come back to
Yep.
Yeah.
Cubbage family.
But see-
But there was a 12-acre, 15-acre tract taken out that Potomac Timber still owns.
But, you know, if you've got that rolling around out there, that at one point it did have that lofty presence of selling at a very high rate, and then you bring in appraised values of comparables that are much, much lower, and it just flies in the face of one another.
Well-
It's going to be. I think it's something they need to look at.
Edwards was over here, and he said he didn't have the appraisal, and all I did was, we talked about this, whether it should come back or not. I think we...
Yeah, but the letter is...
adjusted. We talked about this at the meeting we had the other day, and
Yeah, but he didn't have the appraisal because his letter is in this file where he commissioned the appraisal after he met with us.
Yeah.
so let's just send that on, let him know that we rejected it, and he can
yeah,
send
that's
it on
fine.
to-
Yeah, that's what I've got to do, just to...
Okay. Your next item.
We need to do a vote on this. We do need to do a vote.
Okay, so I move that we leave our equalization review assessment the same as it was, which I don't think we did anything, and that we'll tell him to go to Raleigh if he needs redress.
Motion. Is there a second?
I think the motion just needs to say that we not change the value,
Right.
because what we
Yes.
told him in E&R was that, he could come back, present additional information, so, and that's what he did.
And that's what I'm here for, just to present that
All
for
right,
you.
you have that motion. Is there a second to that motion? All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? It's 7-0. Okay, now, tax certification.
Mr. Richardson requested that last time I was here, the tax certification. This is done yearly. It has to be done in January. I think it has to be mailed by the 15th. Well, it used to be 15th. I think now it's the 1st of February. And this is certifying the values of all property, Beaufort County, real, personal, commercial, business. You just turn to the second page. It gives you a countywide tax levies. This is the amount of value that we, are you all with me? next page.
Is that page 207?
That's 207, yes. Okay, I see that. I marked that at the bottom. That was the amount of the assessed value. No, that's the amount of the levy, I'm sorry, for 2012-13. That's what we're working with now, except for some adjustments, maybe discoveries or releases. And the next page on 208 is a breakdown of each one of the districts we have, such as the Northside Fire District, Washington Township Rescue, Longacre, OU Rescue, and fire districts are broken down as of January 1, 2012. Questions on any of this as I go?
This is the report that tells how the percentage of the levy is figured. It gives us what's that ratio at 95?
Sales ratio?
Yeah.
No, I haven't got that yet. I haven't.
No, that's not done yet.
No, that's not done yet.
Okay. We want that sales ratio when that comes up.
Okay.
This ain't nothing but a breakdown.
Yeah, this is just yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this
But
is
it's
a
I'm glad
tax.
to see it.
This is tax certification. This is what we have to send to the state every year.
Okay, well, let's go to, Commissioner Richard, you had, what was your item?
Has to do with the collection of personal property taxes in Beaufort County.
What page is it on?
I don't think that there's actually anything in here.
Right, okay.
You know, the committee met on this and talked about how to go about doing this, and my understanding that Mr. Parker was going to give us a report on how this is done and how we could proceed with this.
Okay, I can do that. What we discussed at this, and there's two attorneys sitting in here, so that was at the meeting. Mr. Richardson, I think it was a nasty day, and one of the other members did not come in. Mr. Woodruff and myself, I believe, was there. And it's how we might go about levying, seizing, and selling property.
Is that personal property?
That's personal property. It can be real, but we have other ways. We're using all the ways that we have except for this method. Now, this is, we can levy against anyone. We have to go through all the steps. You do not have to go to get a court order. And we're authorized to make the levy. The tax collectors are duly appointed deputy tax collector or sheriff. A municipality may levy and conduct a sale. I'm reading from my little book here, and this is the things we talked about the other day, I think. If you seize something, it has to be secured.
Let's go back to before seizing.
All right.
All right, let's go back to if a person owes personal property taxes in Beaufort County, and they're not paying those taxes, you tell me whether I'm correct or not. The first thing that the tax collector does is looks at garnishing their wages. And we're doing that, right?
Yeah, we're doing that.
We have a person that does this full-time or part-time or what?
She's working pretty much full-time on this.
Okay. And we look first at wages because that's easy to get.
Easy to get to.
All right. Then the second thing we do is we look at attaching bank
The
accounts.
first thing we do is send out a second notice, which brings a lot of people in. Second notice, and then we give them the 30 days before we advertise it in the paper. This wakes a lot of people up and brings a lot of people in. And then we go to the garnishments and
All right. This
other
is
methods.
personal property taxes. I thought we didn't
We advertise a real, but still, when you get the real in, you get a lot of personal property paid too.
But we don't specifically
We're not-
advertise
right,
personal property
right.
taxes as a separate item. But, so we first try for wages because that's easy to get. The second easiest thing is bank accounts. Okay, and then the third easiest thing we try to do is debt set aside.
Set off.
Debt set off from, that's where they take your money from your taxes that you have coming from the state of North Carolina. And then the last thing that we want to do is what you're talking about. After we have tried all of this other stuff,
Right.
is to the attachment of the property.
That is correct.
And that's where we go and seize the property and sell it. Okay. And we don't have to, as I understand it, we do not have to seize the property that the taxes are due on. we can seize any property that the individual has that has enough money or equity in it that we can get our money out of it. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
The
So,
attorney sure that going to speak up.
That's taxpayer.
right,
That taxpayer, yes.
right. So, and if it's business property and it's property that's too big to be moved, then we can post somebody with that property until we sell it.
That is correct.
Can seize it and sell it.
And this property cannot have the owner back around this property. When we seize it, he cannot be around the property any longer. We put a security guard there. He can't come back in to see if the property is okay or not. He's out of it.
So if we seize property that's business property, then they're essentially out of business.
That's correct. If you went out, all right, just take one of the big companies out here that has an overhead crane that hasn't been paid for. We go out and say, we can't move it. So
Right.
we've got to put a security guard there. He cannot go back in the next week and use that property while it's under, the tax office has taken it over. So it's under secure, it can't be used.
Right. And a lot of the legal cases where we've had Supreme Court judgments on this go back over 120 years.
That's where most of these come from.
Right. From the seizure of property. Do we have a lot of personal property in Beaufort County that the taxes have not been paid on?
We have quite a bit, but it's being paid on along as we go because let's see, Friday we had a very good collection day because it was the end of the month. We had a good collection day.
Bobby, when you say security guard, are you talking about a man security guard?
Yeah, you've got to secure it. Yes.
You're responsible
you don't-
for it when you seize it.
There's no way you can lock it?
No.
You can't lock it and go away. No, you cannot lock it and go away because once you seize it, you're responsible for it. If it gets damaged, if somebody comes and steals it, then the county has to pay for it.
That's exactly right.
If you seize the property, you have a guard on it 24 hours until it's sold. And that's why we're having these discussions is as to what property would be seized. Now, we've got a list here that's got about 50 people on it of the top 50 personal. Is it 50, Bobby, or is it about 35?
There's 50 real and 50 personal. I'm going to hand out a new copy of that because in this copy here, he had a glitch in his program and it doubled all the bills. The first one on the real, Alabama, I'm not going to call the name, but we'll see it right there.
Okay, is that personal property?
That's real property.
This is real property.
This is right there.
Oh, you're giving us one on real property now.
You requested both.
I know, but I've got both in my book, but
Well,
I just...
these I would go away with.
You do away with those.
I see you got 44 bills on one, and it's actually 22 bills. I called those people, and I sent them information, and they give us a check.
But we've got people in Beaufort County. The reason I became interested in this is I pay my taxes. I think everybody else should pay theirs. However, I think taxes are too high. But you've got people that owe us $40,000, $68,000, $18,000 in personal property taxes. There's quite a bit of money here that's lined up on this thing, and it goes right on down toward the bottom of the list is $2,800. Now, how many of these people are on a payment plan? Are very many people doing a payment plan to pay their personal property?
We have a number, and I don't know exactly what the number is, but we have gone back in the last year. We had payment plans out there that people were not getting ahead. We are now setting the payment plans where you're going to probably get it paid off in less than a year's time. We had some.
Because it cycles next year, they got the same bill again.
Right back again, yes.
Probably a lot of these people bankrupt.
Not me.
Or bankrupt.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
some of these things, I can look at them and see some of them that have declared bankruptcy.
If they have, they've done it recently.
Okay, so that.
Because they
none of
wouldn't be
these are
on, they wouldn't be on here. We couldn't.
These are good.
Okay,
These are good.
All right.
They're in attendance there.
That's right.
This report you give us
I agree.
is always real and personal property, but you haven't been able to break it out by real property and personal property.
175.
Is it possible to break it out?
The collection, I'm going to, he's working on that. I talked to him a couple of times about this, and we're going to try to see can we, and your problem there is some of it is billed on real and personal together because we can collect both. If it's the same person, if he walks in and pays his real estate, he's going to have to pay his personal property.
Your present computer system won't deal with it, that's what you're saying.
No, he can separate it, but it's going to take a little more time.
But it's not automatic operation.
No.
It just spits out a report what I'm getting at.
No.
Going back to our methodology in collecting this money, how many people, you know, we did the step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1 was for wages. Our tax year became delinquent on like January the 1st of this year for last year. But so I know we don't look at those that hard for just this year, but that's over a year old. Have we exhausted the list of all of the people on finding their attaching wages? In other words, how much of the list, when we go down the list?
We still send an attachment of wages out to the companies now. We've done the county has been done, it's completed, and that is being collected. The corporations, we're in the process of getting those out. So we collect a lot of money from that system.
So are we into the garnishment part of this yet?
Mm-hmm.
So we have exhausted finding wages that we can attach.
Finding sometimes garnish and finding an address is a problem. A bank that people are dealing with, that's the problem. And once somebody sends us a check, well, it's flagged. So we can do that from now on.
So have we exhausted of these all these outstanding accounts? Have we exhausted the garnishment part of it?
No, I wouldn't say no.
So we really haven't moved into step 3, which is debt set aside, or have we?
Oh, that starts in probably August to September, getting ready, and by January, the people that rush down to get their taxes done, and it costs them another $100 to get them done real fast, we're going to wait. We're going to take what they get back.
So what you're telling me is this list that you've given me, and by the way, this is a public list. You can go down to the tax office and say, I want to see the list of the people that hadn't paid their personal property taxes, and you can get to see it. This is public information. What you're telling me is these are hard cases.
These are the first 50. That's the most. That's a hard case.
You've exhausted debt set aside. You've exhausted wages. You've exhausted finding a bank account and garnishment.
They are hard cases, but I would say that we are still making progress with them. The one up there I was showing you first on the list on the real estate.
No, I only want to talk about personal properties. I don't want to bounce back.
Are you talking about hard cases on real estate?
No. We're only talking about personal property.
If we're talking about real estate, then we're going to have some words.
Yeah, we're talking about personal property taxes. So, in other words, we haven't exhausted all of our.
No, sir. We hope we never exhaust all of our methods.
I mean working the list. When you work the list of these people that haven't paid their taxes, I want to know how much work remains to be done in using our tax collection methods that the law allows us in order to get this done. Is this just something we're working on occasionally? Is this something we're aggressively pursuing?
I would say this list will change considerably next month. I hope it does anyway. That's my thing, because the debt set-off program is going real well now. We're into state's sending it back right now. So
the debt set-off is over with. April 15th, it's over with.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Because as long as the state processes a check and sends it back, I might not have sent mine until April the 15th, but if it don't get processed to August, and I have mine,
okay, so you're still.
It comes around year-round. It's just, sure.
Something just jumped out at me on this page. $21,264.22, and we don't know who owns it.
Yeah.
It says unknown.
Yeah. Which page are you on, though? Are you on real estate or are you on personal property?
Personal property. Or real estate, I'm sorry.
You're on,
Yeah,
you're on.
real estate, we have some unknowns out there, people,
Yeah, there's some
unknown properties out there,
I don't
yes.
see how that happens. I mean,
Well, you can't find the people.
You can't find the
Heirs,
people.
there's no deed of who owns the property?
It's a hole, it's, nobody, land might not fit together, and we cannot find, unless we can find somebody occupying that land and using that land, then we will transfer it to them, and if somebody walks in and says, I got a deed for this piece of property, then we'll have to do it the right way.
Well, I only have one more thing to say on personal property, and then we can talk about this. We're going to get this every month from now on. Okay? So we can see the progress that's made on this. All right. Now, real estate is on here, but personal property was my thrust because real estate is pretty much taken care of. You've got a separate list in here of cases on real estate that have been given over the years by year. And one of the things I was noticing is a couple of these things that are about to expire, 10 years is all that the lien is good for. And if you go back to 2004, we've got a case here that goes $1,997.34. We're going to lose all that, or most of it. That's big enough to go after.
Unless it's in foreclosure. If it's in foreclosure, Mr. Bardell can go back longer than the 10-year period.
Okay.
He collects that right on back. If it's 15, 20 years, he collects it.
You know, there's some other big ones in here that are old. So how do you?
A lot of that is heir property too. You can't. It's finding the heirs is a costly operation, and it's a long-term thing. It's just not like walking out and saying, "You're going to foreclose on my piece of property. I can't do a thing about it except come pay my taxes." If you got 100 heirs out there, you got a problem. Or if you got 10 heirs out there, you got a problem.
But we have given Bardell's, it looks like about 150 names here in the 2013 cycle. Some of them admittedly are $78 and $42 accounts.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are pretty big accounts.
But, yes.
Okay, and he'll roll in here and work.
He'll roll on the big ones if it's something he can get to, yes.
Okay.
All right.
I'm done.
All right. Thank you.
That's all I
Chris
have.
Hilbert.
JoJo has a handout. I'm Chris Hilbert with Holland Consulting Planners. I appreciate you accommodating me and this handout. The Beaufort County Scattered Site program is been ongoing, and we submitted an amendment back late last year that just finally got approved. The environmental review process is a painstaking process at this point to add a unit to a program. Ms. Grimes, this house that we've got in front of you was identified by the emergency manager's office and has flooded a number of times, was fixed up after Hurricane Floyd and flooded recently again. So we are proposing a replacement of her house through the Scattered Site program. We received bids today at 2 o'clock. We got two bidders, very competitive, within $900 of each other. And we'd like to recommend to approve the contract to Paul Ward Construction as the low bidder.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 7-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One question for you. How many people do we have to bid on this? Just the two?
We just had the two. We had a contractors meeting early on in the project where we had contractors come in. We had 8 total come in. We sent out packages to those 8, and we got the 2 bids today.
Okay.
Ms. Christina Smith.
Good evening, gentlemen. 2 items that I have on the agenda tonight. The first is the adoption of the local water supply plans, both for the north side as well as the south side. That is a requirement per North Carolina general statute that public water systems prepare these plans on an annual basis, and it is, I believe, a new requirement that the Board of Commissioners adopt the local water supply plans in order to be fully compliant with the general statute, which would allow us to be eligible for grant funding in the future.
Questions or concerns, or what is the pleasure of the board?
I move we adopt the plan.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
Thank you. Second item is regarding the request to purchase vehicles. It's my understanding that even though the two of the vehicles were previously included in the budget, I still need to come before you to allow us to act on that budgetary item. Two of the vehicles, as I said, were included in fiscal year 2013 budget. Those would be the smaller pickups that we're looking to replace that we spoke about in the budget workshops. The third vehicle is a SUV-type vehicle that was not included in the original budget. It's a vehicle that would be assigned to me to use on a daily basis. It is the SUV so that we can carry more than two people when we have training off-site in surrounding counties. Instead of driving two pickups, I'd like to carry one vehicle instead.
What kind of SUV is it?
I'm not sure yet. Still obtaining bids for that.
Isn't your truck, excuse me, mister,
Yeah.
isn't the vehicle you're driving now, isn't it a crew cab? Before, is that a crew cab?
It's not a crew cab. It's an extended cab.
Three people can't sit in it.
Not unless I'm the one in the back seat, and then I'd have to turn my legs to the side.
Have you got prices for the three vehicles?
I've obtained preliminary pricing. I do not have an official budget or an official quote on the vehicles.
I really think she should come back when she gets prices and we can see what she's buying, because I have a concern that we've been buying some pretty fancy vehicles lately. We want to get out of that.
Fancy as in...
I agree.
Would you like to see the
Yeah,
exact specifications? Okay.
And part of the problem, I think, typically what we've been doing over the last couple of years is purchasing, for the water department anyway, purchasing the Ford Rangers for the meter readers. And I think 2 years ago we purchased two F-150s, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I believe in the past they've alternated between the full-size trucks versus the compact trucks.
And the Ford Rangers are no longer available. The only other vehicle that's comparable to that on state contract pricing is the Toyota Tacoma. With the recent approvals that were given, as we researched that, we're finding it's difficult to find a lot of the state contract dealerships are no longer have the fiscal year 2013 contract vehicles on the lot anymore. So we've been able to try to negotiate with local dealers on trying to get as close to state contract pricing as we can. I believe the Tacomas on state contract pricing are somewhere around $17,500 to $18,000, I think,
Right.
depending on what you get.
That's not a crew cab. That's just a basic.
We wouldn't need extended cab or any of that. That's the basic vehicle that is stripped down, no extended cab or anything like that. So
Work truck.
that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we need to know how many miles are on the vehicles that you're replacing, that you're going to surplus.
Yes, I have two. Both have over 160,000 miles on them, which we generally, those are the two highest mileage vehicles in our fleet.
You have a year model on those?
Yes, I do.
These vehicles come with a manual, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Let's see. 2005, and I believe one's a 2006.
Are these meter? Had these been used as meter reader trucks?
Yes, meter reader trucks. The general protocol of the department is the compact trucks generally are used by the distribution on the north side as well as the south side, going to the booster pump stations, and then after a few years they are given to the meter readers for the more aggressive wear and tear that takes place during that.
Okay, Commissioner Clem.
These come with automatic or manual transmission?
Automatic.
Automatic.
Meter readers in and out.
Transmissions.
Okay, anything further? So you'll have that for us later.
I will.
Mr. Chairman, since this is the last meeting in our current fiscal year, I'll just remind you that these two vehicles were budgeted in the current fiscal year. So, in Christina's effort to bring you back update figures likely will be in the next fiscal year. So we'll probably ask for an appropriation or a rollover from the current fiscal year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Whitehurst.
Good evening. I have one thing on the agenda, and that is to ask for you to review and approve proposed agreements for the Register of Deeds Office to begin to do electronic recording of satisfactions of deeds of trust. The agenda says deeds, but it would be for satisfactions of deeds of trust. There would be no collection of fees involved in that, and there would be no cost to the county to begin to do this. The lending institution would pay the two companies that we have here on the agenda to use their services to record these documents electronically.
Okay. It's a pleasure of the board.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do Mr. Davis's report.
Okay.
He's here. Mr. Davis, you want to come forward?
It's not in there.
You have a handout copy, I believe, up there. Hey, Doc. All right, man.
One short.
Here's one I have right here.
Okay.
Good evening. Back on the 16th of May of this month, last month, came down and met with Mr. I can't think of Randall's last name. Mr. Woodruff. I'm sorry. Went blank. Mr. Woodruff, also the sheriff's office, the sheriff, jail administrator, and the chief deputy. Also, Commissioner Clem sat in. We talked about what they're currently doing as far as efforts to try to reduce the jail population currently. After that meeting, I had discussions with the clerk of court, DA's office, also with the judge, except for Judge Sermons, who has been unavailable. I think he's been out of town in another district. In looking at the average length of stay, and then also hearing earlier tonight from one of the defense attorneys what's going on here, it was pretty evident to me that everybody seems to be working in a positive manner trying to reduce the jail population. Comparing Beaufort County's average length of stay in the jail to other counties, it's not out of line. It's pretty much across the board of being efficient. In looking at what the sheriff's office is doing to try to make efforts, they're averaging anywhere from 6 to 9 on house arrest. That's moving them out prior to, pretrial efforts. One thing in the discussions that was pretty consistent was that rather than pretrial, where they get out before they go to court and stand a chance of failing to appear, that then causes the clerk additional work, sheriff's office additional work, other police departments additional work, to have to go back and find these people and get them recalendared again, was to focus more on trying to expedite them through the court process. And I'm not sure the gentleman's name was with the public defender's office earlier tonight, but he's right. They've done a really good job trying to expedite as many cases as possible. What we looked at is Captain Ross at the jail on a practically a daily basis looks at what she has there, reports to the clerk's office, ones that's been there for extended periods of time, And the clerk's office, by statute, looks at the jail list. They get a jail list once a week that they look at to see, make sure that nobody's kind of slipped through the cracks or been there for long, extended periods of time. Going back to what the public defender said today about the number in jail about capital cases. Capital cases, if you've got an inmate in jail on a capital case, being there 12 months is really not anything. I mean, it's not uncommon to see one on capital case to be there 12, 24, 36 months. It's just that process that they have to go through. So what we looked at is the majority of what comes in and what would be the easiest and the quickest to get out would be the misdemeanor offenders. And rather than getting the misdemeanor offender out on a pretrial before they've had their day in court and get sentenced, was to look at trying to expedite them more quickly through the court system. So once they can get to court, get tried, get a disposition, and then you're done with it. Either sentenced to where they can go to the State Department of Corrections or sentenced and get time served. In many cases, in misdemeanors, not just in this county but statewide, people are arrested on small cases, small crimes, that trespassing, drunken disruptive, and things like that may have a history of fail to appear in court, but yet if they're found guilty, they can only get 10 days. But their court date may be originally set 30 days away. When they first get arrested, their court date, if they're arrested on June 1st, their court date may be July 1st. So they can only get 10 days if they actually are found guilty or plead guilty. So what we talked about was putting together a jail court liaison position, and it could be one that's internal already. It's just not something that Captain Ross, with everything else that she's doing, is able to do on an everyday basis, the way it needs to make it efficient. Look at those, run them through DCI, get their criminal history, find out where they fall on the sentencing chart if they are found guilty. And if that sentence is less than what their court date is, then work with the DA's office, the clerk office, and the judge, and get them in court quicker than that. I don't want to say it's a cost savings, but it's more of a cost avoidance. It's if you're spending $50 a day to house an inmate, and they've got to wait 30 days to get to court to get a 10-day sentence, to get time served off of that 10 days, you're paying that $50 a day for that 20 days. That if you could have got them there on day 10, they would have got tried and released. In some cases where they may sit in jail for 30 days, go to court, and then request an attorney once they get there. And then, so by trying to expedite this and get them in court, not only will it save the county some money, but it should free up some beds as well. How many beds? That's going to be hard to say. One, the key is having the person that can be this jail court liaison person that has DCI certified, where they can run the history, has an understanding of the criminal justice system here in this county. I spoke and ran this program by the clerk and the DA and the judge, and they were all in favor of it, willing to work with it. I don't think it's a full-time position because I don't think you have that many cases. And again, I don't know if you have somebody already on county staff that could do this, or if you have to look outside to get it. But as far as alternatives, outside of what you're already doing to make it more efficient, it's going to be hard to say. I can't find anything. I know if you look at things by days incarcerated, just at face value, you go, well, this person's been in jail for a long time. Like the public defender explained, discovery periods and the way it has to go through the court system, and then if you get an attorney that asks for a continuance, or with the crime lab, and you brought up a very valid point, Mr. Richardson, about whether or not you can get a private entity to do. I've heard a lot of counties ask that. The SBI in this year's state budget is asking for more technicians to try to move up, things. I've gone to court a lot of times in counties and sitting there and observed where they had to continue cases because crime results were not back, or if there was a victim in the crime, they didn't show up. So then they continue and continue. So looking at trying to expedite felony cases is a tough road to hoe. So that's why our recommendations is to focus on the misdemeanors to where we can probably get them out quicker and in essence freeing up some bed space. Is this a fix to your jail problem? Absolutely not. Should it be done? I think it should be done if you had 500 beds and 100 inmates, because it's proper management. You know, it's effectively managing your population so you're not spending money keeping somebody in jail longer than what they could be if they were found guilty.
Commissioner Booth.
Mr. Todd, I tried to get these gentlemen, like the scenario you have here, a guy got a 10-day sentence. It would be cheaper for the county to stand his bond than for him to sit down there 20 days.
That's right.
But I was,
A little bit of liability there.
but last week I was at an area, and I don't know whether it's true or not. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a country boy. But the guys were laughing that there was a gentleman in our jail had been in there so long that the judge told him to go home, time served, and if they went on and tried him, he'd have been out in 10 days, and he sat down there for about 6 months. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But those are the kind of things that we need to find out if they're true. Even the scenario that you just gave, if a guy's got a 10-day sentence for trespassing, it's ridiculous for him to sit down there and we paying $64 a day time 20 days from 10 days is all you can keep him if you're found guilty. So we're triple punishing him.
Well, and not just in Beaufort County, but in many counties.
I understand.
What happens is that if the days of inmates committing one crime and coming to jail are over. Now they come and they got a whole shopping list of charges. So they go to court multiple times. They may go to court or make bond on one charge, but not make bond on the others. And then they're held. It's just if you don't have somebody that's looking at each one of those on a daily or weekly basis, at least, you're going to have a lot of those that happen. The county jail that I ran, I implemented that, and we assigned a dollar value to our savings. We saved $400,000 the first year. And that was just based on the number of days. I say it's a savings, but actually it's a cost avoidance, like I said, because you're not spending it.
Yeah.
And not to mention, if they're there for 30 days and you get them out on day 10, in those 20 days, in addition to the $60 or whatever you're paying a day to house them, then you don't have the risk of them having a heart attack while they're in there, getting assaulted by another inmate, and then those medical bills on top of that. Or worst case, assaulting one of your officers, and then you got a workers' comp injury, and all of those. So anytime you can get them out, I'm a firm believer in getting them through the court system. Pretrial programs really work, and some of them have a real positive outlook, but the sooner you can get them done, you're just postponing the inevitable in some cases.
Well, let me ask you something else. Did you look at the possibility, and I don't know whether it's happening or not. I'm just questioning. This is a question I have. I also hear on the block that there's guys in our jail, and when time for them to get out, they know about what time for them to get out, they're holding warrants so they can hold them longer. Is that true?
Not from what I could see.
Okay.
What I could see is that everybody in y'all's criminal justice system seems to be making every possible effort possible to get them out of jail.
Well, when I was working, I don't have that access now. When I was working, I used to see that there was warrants that had been held. The guy's already in jail, and he make bond today. I can name one of them. He made bond today, and when he come upstairs to get his junk to get on down the street, they put him right back down there. I know that have happened.
It's no way of actually what I looked at to see if that's happening. Could that be happening? Sure, it could. But
let me just interject this right quick, and I know this to be factual. There are people who go to prison, pull their sentences, and get out, and the day that they get out, law enforcement goes serve them with a warrant.
That's wrong.
And I've always felt that it's so wrong.
That's
If
wrong.
They're in there serving their time. Why you gonna let them serve all their time? Then the minute they get out, you serve a warrant on them. And I'm here to tell you, it happens.
Yep, you're exactly
Well,
right.
that's why to do what he's talking about doing, I am quite frankly not willing to turn it over to either sheriff or the jailer or anybody else. If you guys are considering this, that person should work for the commissioners as a separate individual. We'll call him an ombudsman, and he can go down there and help and check the warrants for people that's in jail. He can, if you want something to do this, we can police this, but you're not going to police it inside of the system that you got right now. Otherwise, we would not be having this conversation.
Yeah, true. And we could probably hire somebody, wouldn't be an employee of us. We can get somebody as a consultant to do it.
I want somebody I can fire.
Well, we can always fire somebody on contract.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask this?
Am I right?
You said in the system you worked in, you saw a savings of $400,000 in the first year.
Cost avoidance.
That was based solely on
how many people,
what it cost.
Cost avoidance, but let me.
You don't really have the money. You just
Right.
You
just don't have to spend it.
But what I'm getting at is in a system our size, what would you see the cost avoidance being?
I had 350 inmates. Was my average daily population.
So
We
you're
averaged
looking at
about
about
60.
4 times the size of ours. So you could look at us at maybe $100,000 in cost avoidance.
That's where I put it.
Okay.
And not only does that position look at expediting those cases, but also any time an inmate's brought back on a writ, whether it's brought back from DOC or brought from another county, that person tracks to make sure. A lot of times they'll be writted back for administrative week, and they may or may not ever make it to court that week. So it's that person's tracking those so you can get them back out as well.
Right.
Anytime you have to do a safe keep order, that's the person that does all of that. So it's
So
whether
if you're
it works for the sheriff, works for you, works for the county, or who it works for, I think that's.
So you're saying maybe $100,000 cost avoidance, and so what would you peg the salary at for this part-time person?
I started
Including
mine.
benefits.
Started mine in '99, and we started them out at $35,000 plus benefits, which was equivalent to a sergeant's rank of pay at my time.
Is that a full-time person or part?
I did full time, yes, sir.
Okay, so
We wouldn't need that. We just need a consultant.
Well, you could I wouldn't do a consultant because you got other issues there. If he's an employee, he's got protection within the system. If you put him in there as a consultant, there's a lot of legal issues to talk about because he may be going into jail in and out, and you want him to be an employee so he's got full protection of the law, of our law. But if you hire somebody to do this, you're really talking about maybe a retired policeman, a retired police officer, and a lot of these guys are just looking for something to do, and he could go down there a half a day a week and do us a lot of good.
That's exactly what I hired. I hired a retired magistrate who already understood the system.
Already knew the system.
Already knew what the DA did, knew the clerk, knew all that.
Okay, well, we need to close this out because we got a public hearing at 7.
Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that we think about a committee, and we can take it up at our next meeting if you like, a committee to take a look at how to do this.
Okay.
Could I ask for one thing?
What?
Could you provide us a sample of how we might measure the benefit of the cost avoidance?
Well, just in the number of days you would save from them staying in jail compared to their assigned court date, and then
By a determined amount?
By what you're paying per day to house them. In order to, what you're asking me if to do a projection of how many I think?
No. That's a simple way to measure it.
The individual could just do a log with, move so-and-so on this, you could almost look at his daily diary and tell.
I actually had a kind of a corny name for our program. We called it the MOVE program, which stood for Misdemeanor Offender Vacancy Endeavor, which that's what we were trying to do. We were trying to move inmates out of jail that would concentrate on misdemeanors.
Okay, this is what I'll do. Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner Booth, and
should have kept quiet.
And volunteer.
You're always going to be on the committee, bud.
Commissioner Belcher.
All right.
Yeah,
he got up and walked out.
Got you.
You're now the committee to study this issue. Before we go to our public hearing, let's take care of this pyrotechnics.
So moved. So moved.
All right, motion second, discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
agree with you on that. Anchor baby. I agree. But see, you can change that. I forget what the amendment is. Is it?
Behind the door right now. No, got a contribution, everything changed, but.
Yeah.
That's right.
I got to try to get it off my game. And maybe it's just my mood that piss me off.
Oh, they just do things to piss you off. What you got to do? What you got to do is find things that piss them off.
Oh, it's good seeing you in the meeting.
It's such a serious issue.
A lot of times,
How are you?
I tend to
Just
get
all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, I've got children